Mama said be sweet, stay quiet, but sugar never suited me right. Got a match in my pocket, fire in my veins. Smile like trouble, walk like rain. Every crown slips sooner or late. I was born to laugh at fate.
Walking through the Storyville Museum feels different than I expected. For a place built on such heavy history, it's light, airy, almost playful in spots. You catch the rhythm of jazz in the background. You see the faces on the walls, and somehow it doesn't feel tragic. It feels alive. The exhibits tell you all sides of the story: the business, the music, the women, the survival, the booze. You can see how the sound of a trumpet could carry above everything else and just make life for a moment feel bearable. These were hard times, like baby poop green blowout times. If we're being honest with ourselves, most of the women who worked in Storyville weren't chasing luxury. They were just trying to not to starve. But my brain can't help but wonder if it wasn't all mugshots and abuse. Maybe for a brief spark of time, it was something close to normal. Maybe laughter still found its way in between the piano keys. Maybe there were nights when someone poured the gin and the horn players hit that sweet spot, and for a minute, they forgot about everything else. It wasn't a fair life, but it was a life. This happened, and for a short time, it was legal, it was work, and it was their corner of the world to own. Syphilis be damned, they danced away. Maybe that's why this museum doesn't feel like a eulogy. It feels like a heartbeat, a soft one, echoing through brass and memory. A reminder that even in the ugliest times, people still found a way to sing and inspire. So what was Storyville? Storyville was the red light district of New Orleans from 1897 to 1917. The district was established by municipal ordinance under the New Orleans City Council to regulate prostitution, with guidelines written by Alderman Sidney Story, a man who, ironically, would end up giving his name to the vice he tried to contain. The district covered 38 blocks, bounded by Iberville, Basin, St. Louis, and North Robinson streets, sitting right behind the train station. It was a convenient stop for travelers looking for a little trouble. Locals called it the district, but the name Storyville stuck. Inside its borders were houses that ranged from crumbling shacks to marble mansions. The cheapest cribs might cost 50 cents. The lavish establishments along Basin Street could demand $10 or more. Brothels, dance halls, gambling rooms, and saloons, they thrived side by side. It was a place where jazz found its legs, where musicians like Jelly Roll Morton and Tony Jackson and young Louis Armstrong played to rooms filled with perfume, whiskey, and secrets. Between 1895 and 1915, the famous Blue Books were printed. They were guides listing the women who sold themselves. They worked in the district. Their addresses, prices, and even their race and religion were listed. Those little books sold for a quarter, advertising vice like a department store catalog. But by 1917, the United States had entered World War I. The military decided Storyville was to close because its naval base was too close. Under pressure from Washington, the city closed it down. Most of the buildings were demolished, and by 1940, the Iberville housing project stood where the district once pulsed with music and sin. Today, only a few buildings remain, ghosts of an era that shaped New Orleans, its very identity, for better or for worse. Storyville wasn't just divided by pleasure, it was divided by color. There were brothels and cribs for white women only, black women only, and mixed race women. Never the races to mix, but all selling the same thing to stay alive. Black men were restricted to where they could go, slip and slide, but white men, they could taste the rainbow as long as they had the funds. Legalized vice didn't mean equality. In fact, it made prejudice more visible. The reason that we have so many photographs of black women from Storyville isn't because they were celebrated. It's because they were arrested. Mugshots became their portraits. Disease, violence, addiction, and police brutality, they were all part of the daily risk. But if a crime was committed against them, it rarely made the papers, and justice almost never came. Not much has changed, really. Even now, in a world of true crime, how often do we hear the phrase, the less dead? The victims who don't fit the narrative, who don't make headlines. All because of what they did for a living. The women in Storyville didn't live here. They worked here. Many carried multiple names. They were stage names, printed in blue books. They were never the ones that they were born with. Because in Storyville, they might have been the dirty Disney princess fulfilling fantasies, but in real life, they were wives, mothers, and neighbors, respectable women just trying to survive. Even in the 1960s, when oral histories were recorded, most refused to share their real names. Not from shame, but from ownership. Storyville was their job. It wasn't their life. So what's left of Storyville? A few historic buildings and a museum. This was an unscheduled stop for me and Key on our New Orleans trip, but it was one that sent me into a fit of joy. I love the darker side of history. It's real, it's gritty, it's common, it's struggle. It's the struggle of the poor, and let's face it, I live in that. So why not see the historic versions of it, learn what I can, and take these faces I see into myself and love them for what they survived. Looking around at the design, I took inspiration, not from the joy of being here, but from the beauty of these women and what they created. My journal pages are full of notes, little touches that I could pour into my own little maximalist tiny palace. I dreamed of decorating a vanity with sheer fabrics and red lantern light, getting ready for my day, knowing that if I had lived in that time, in New Orleans during my 20s, chances are my socioeconomic class of woman might have plied her side hustle right there in one of those brothels. This museum tells the story of struggle, of women desperate just to make a living. Some were desperate to make a fortune. Madame Luluwhite comes to mind, and some did make a fortune and were buried in lavish graves thanks to the endeavors of the lewd and abandoned women of New Orleans. Looking at you, Josie Arlington. History wants you to forget this kind of story. I think we should love it, build more museums like this one and learn from it. Maybe even pick up a replica of the Blue Book for yourself and take a peek into the past. If you go to New Orleans, this museum is a top spot to visit. Check your prude nature at the door, learn something, maybe listen to a little jazz, indulge in the booze display before Prohibition turns everyone into bootleggers and mobsters. This spot to me is a solid $10 brothel. I'd visit again in a heartbeat. Thanks for listening to me talk to myself. If you like this content, like and subscribe. Otherwise, enjoy a few more faces of the women who made Storyville famous. History calls them the fallen. I'll choose to call them unforgettable.
Mama said be sweet, stay quiet, but sugar never suited me right. Got a match in my pocket, fire in my veins, smile like trouble, walk like rain. Every crown slips sooner or late. I was born to laugh at fate. Gonna raise a my boots on the wild side of grace. Red lipstick, red on my face. They whisper my name like a warning bell, but I dance better when I raise a little hell. Every crown slips sooner or late. I was born to laugh at fate. Gonna raise a little ruckus, shake up the floor, kick that door like I've been here before. If the rules don't bend, I'll break them in two. Raise a little ruckus just to feel brand new.